Cursed, a story by Fluff Part 6. They walked in relative silence as Adrian led them through the tangles of the desert brush toward a secluded hillside. She could feel her hands still trembling and hoped Marcus didn't notice. It would be nice to simply enjoy each other's company rather than worry about current issues, but that didn't seem like a possibility at the time. Part of her wondered how the Drake community would react to her bringing her all-human husband to meet them. The only other human they'd ever trusted was Agnes, and even then most Drakes theorized she had remnants of dragon blood in her lineage. Adrian smiled. Agnes herself claimed to be a 12th royal on her mother's side. It was nice to think they could be related, however many generations apart. She looked back at Marcus, admiring his fit physique and curled black hair before opening her mouth.
I know you're the charismatic one, but let me speak when we get there. Just like everyone would be wary of me if you told them I was a dragon, the Drakes aren't going to trust you if I tell them you're human.
Marcus laughed.
Thanks for thinking I have charisma. I'll be sure to keep my mouth shut.
That's not what I meant.
Her husband smirked, and she rolled her eyes with a smile. A red glow with a halo of black emanated from the peak of the hill, and Adrian frowned. Was there some kind of festival going on? The Drakes weren't this careless. Her stomach tightened and her skin quivered, the whisper of a growl echoing in the back of her mind.
If I release you now, we'll put everyone in danger, if there is any at all.
Her dragon's chamber warmed, but settled down. Adrian still didn't breathe easy. It was the first time she'd been able to reason with her dragon half, and she wasn't sure how far she trusted herself to keep it in check. Marcus crept up next to her.
What's wrong?
I don't know. But I almost charged in, breath flaming.
He grinned, but she noted a hint of uneasiness in it.
That would have been something to see.
They laid low in the wet brown grass and peeked over the top of the hill. Shacks, nests, and grass sat in flames as smoke rose into the morning sky. Adrian's heart stopped when she saw several smashed eggshells strewn about the clearing, and her nose burned as she held back tears. A couple dozen men, women, and children stood with chains around their necks, a few mothers comforting their infants. Marcus nudged her and nodded toward the wide trail of damp earth that ran around them that the fire had not yet reached.
Someone's thought this through.
The butt end of a spear cracked against Marcus's temple, and Adrian jumped, pins and needles caressing her skin as her dragon half demanded release.
I'm sorry, Your Majesty.
Cold metal clamped around her neck, chilling her and cooling her dragon's chamber, shutting off all access to any form of transformation. She reached up out of instinct to try to pry it off, but to no avail. Marcus lay in the moist earth, blood dripping across his face, and she watched his chest. There, a rise. He was only unconscious. She could breathe again.
Who do you think?
A familiar face greeted her, and Adrian felt a chill that had nothing to do with the collar around her neck.
Captain Gaius.
Lord Havard's orders, Your Highness. He told us the whole story. How you sat in hiding for years, trying to kill him at the banquet when he confronted you, killing 2 of our men to escape when your true self had been revealed.
Adrian swallowed. It sounded terrible when put that way.
I didn't know.
What? That you were a dragon? Havard said you might pull that one. How gullible do you think I am?
Not very.
If Gaius had caught her sarcasm, he didn't show it. He called several soldiers over, and they marched Adrian and still unconscious Marcus to the rest of the Drakes. Her chest tightened when a child, not yet 5, whimpered to her mother about the chill of the collar, and she dropped one of her petticoats to the ground with a meaningful look at the pair. The mother nodded and stretched out of line to pick up the garment, wrapping it around her daughter. Once comfortable homes lay in blackened ash and smoke. Adrian tried not to think of the crunching sound under her feet and took a shuddering breath when it hit her. This was her fault. She'd agreed to come here with Claudius. She'd shown herself to an unknown number of witnesses at the palace during her first transformation. She should have known after Havard's ignition that she would become a target. Now, who knew how many had lost their lives in her flock? This was supposed to be her family, and she'd betrayed them. Cages sat in the back of dozens of wagons, most of them filled already with their victims. One lay open before her. Gaius had ensured her place among the prisoners. Shadows crossed the sky above, making prisoners and guards alike look up to see the source. Adrian grinned. She knew those shining gold scales anywhere. 3 other full-grown dragons flanked Claudius and belted out roars that shook the earth, whisking away 3 or 4 guards each and tossing them to distances unknown. Claudius himself landed next to Adrian, snapping up one of her guards and throwing him into the flames of one of the burning nets. She didn't know whether to feel horrified or relieved. She'd never imagined witnessing a dragon battle. Claudius growled at the rest of Adrian's escort, smoke curling from his nostrils, his eyes glittering with rage. He arched his neck and expanded his belly, ready to set the clearing even more aflame, but the soldiers ran. He lowered his face and nestled a tooth into Adrian's collar, breaking it off with a slight jerk of his head before transfiguring back to his human self and taking her into his arms.
They didn't harm you, did they?
She shook her head but turned to Marcus, whose limp body lay abandoned in the ash, and Claudius knelt to examine him. More dragons, freed from their chains, swarmed around the little village, soldiers fleeing in all directions. Claudius sighed, still examining his son-in-law.
Thank heavens we were still out scouting when they came, or I don't know what we would have done.
Adrian nodded, still distracted by her thoughts.
I'm sorry, Father.
He chuckled, hoisting Marcus onto his back.
For what?
I led them here. I should have known they'd come hunting for me.
Well, that's a little narcissistic, don't you think?
Adrian looked up.
What?
It isn't all about you, my dear. The council has been hunting us down for years. It was only a matter of time before they found us. This was our own fault for not being better prepared.
She pursed her lips, not saying anything, and checked on Marcus again.
Don't worry, he'll be fine. He'll have a nice bruise and a headache when he wakes, but not much more. Agnes said you had bigger concerns anyway.
Adrian set her jaw, meeting Claudius, her father's, eyes.
Nothing is more important than Marcus's well-being. I did get a notice, however, that my sister, well, half-sister, I suppose, is marrying the same man who sent these soldiers. He can't keep what he's done a secret forever, and I'm afraid when she finds out...
Claudius nodded.
Just tell me what I can do.